a career night when he scores his career high against the Atlanta Hawks and a Bulls win. Does this win move the Bulls farther up the standings in the Eastern Conference? Is an important win in the Eastern Conference playing race. We're going to talk about it all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
I see red, I see red, I see red, I see red, yeah, I see red, I see red, I see red, I see.
The Chicago Bulls get an important win when it comes down to the Eastern Conference playing race. DeMar DeRozan scores 29 points, Ayo Dosunmu 29 points, Coby White 20 points, Nikola Vucevic 24 points. The Bulls have over 4 players scoring 20 digits in double digits, in over 20 points. And then they have another player in Javon Carter, surprisingly enough, score in double digits. This is a win that the Chicago Bulls really did need to create a little bit more separation in that Eastern Conference playing race. The Atlanta Hawks were only one game behind the Chicago Bulls coming into this game. This game now gives the Bulls a little bit more separation in that race. And this could become one of those important wins as the season goes on. But outside of the impact on the Eastern Conference playoff race or not, which the Bulls now move to 2 games above the Atlanta Hawks, the Bulls played a solid enough game. 55% shooting from the field as a team, 46% shooting when they go 13 of 28 from three-point range in this game. They have 43 rebounds to the Atlanta Hawks, 49 rebounds. And then we move the ball around quite well. I like the way that every player got involved in this game. Throughout this game, we had a stretch of Dalen Terry, who went 3 of 3 from the field, by the way, for 7 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal. Javon Carter having one of his better games on the year, and that doesn't come very often for Javon Carter. He goes 4 of 8 for 11 points in this game, and then also Andre Drummond with 7 and 11 in this game. But this comes down to the two-way play of Ayo Dosunmu in a lot of ways made this game for the Chicago Bulls. Yes, DeMar DeRozan also scored 29 points. We're going to talk about him in a second. But Ayo Dosunmu's defense and offense, getting out in transition, putting the Bulls in positions to get easier buckets, he was all over the court today, tying his now career high in back-to-back games with 5 3-pointers made. But outside of that, he goes 12 of 8 from the field, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block in this game. 7 assists, 2 rebounds, 29 points from Ayo Dosunmu, and then DeMar DeRozan. We know with this Bulls team, very often you need 2 players at least to really kind of lead that way scoring. DeMar had a very efficient night, going 10 of 17 from the field, 3 rebounds, 5 assists in this game, only 1 turnover from DeMar DeRozan. The Bulls overall take care of the ball really well in this game. And then Coby White, who didn't have the best first half in this game, 8 of 17 from the field, which isn't bad. He does finish 1 of 5 from three-point range, which, Coby's a streaky shooter. We know those three-pointers are going to come along for Coby at some point. But he has 4 rebounds, 7 assists, 1 steal in this game from him. And then Vooch, 24 points from Nikola Vucevic, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal. Vooch taking kind of better advantage of mismatches that he had in this game. There's still some times where he missed some bunnies around the rim. You want to see Nikola Vucevic tighten that up where he can, because that just makes the Bulls' offense just that much more efficient when Vooch is playing that well. But, we got out-rebounded only by 6 in this game, which is okay. Only 7 second chance points for the Bulls, 16 for the Atlanta Hawks. Fast break points, we got murdered, 7 to 21. Points in the paint, though. The Bulls score 68 points in the paint in this game to the Atlanta Hawks 56. And then the Hawks also having 55 points off the bench to the Bulls only 5 points off the bench. I'm sorry, 25 points off the bench in this game. But we won the turnover battle. 6 turnovers for the Bulls, 11 for the Atlanta Hawks. The Bulls converted that into 10 points off turnovers. The Hawks had 13. But overall, this was one of those playoff atmosphere type games, again, that the Bulls came out on the other side in. In the first half of this game, the Chicago Bulls only held on to a lead for a little over 4 minutes. They end up having almost 8 minutes more of leading this game than the Atlanta Hawks, when they have 26 minutes of leading to the Atlanta Hawks 18 minutes in leading. So the Bulls took care of the business where they needed to, and that's just what intensifies this win. The Bulls got the dub how and where they needed to. They were able to capitalize off what they needed to, and they stepped up. They had the right players step up at the right time to help push the team to a lead, and that was the most important thing when it came down to it. Is the can you make the right plays at the right time? Even when you have some defensive lapses, can you get the stops where you need them? The Bulls did. They got key rebounds when they needed it, and they pushed the ball out in transition as well. Like I said, it wasn't a perfect game by any stretch for the Chicago Bulls, but it was a good game overall for the Bulls and a good team win in which they when the Bulls fight like this, 136 points scored. Now again, it's the second worst defense in the league are the Atlanta Hawks defense. So want to be clear on that. Second worst defense in the league, but the Bulls, the key thing is they got the dub where they needed to get the dub at. And you had a player in Dosunmu step up and to really give you that consistent scoring punch when you're one of your best offensive weapons in Kobe White started off cold for the night. And then he got hotter as the night went on. But, having Io be able to bring that pressure was important for the Bulls on the night. And so got to love the way that the Bulls played in this one. It wasn't a perfect game. There's definitely things you can pull out negative in this game. But the thing that the Bulls have done over this stretch and in this time is that, they've shown enough, right? And they've played up to their competition. And the Atlanta Hawks are a team that's right around that same level as the Bulls. Take that for what you will in it. And they got the dub. So love seeing the Bulls get this win. Already see MC says competitive win. Definitely a competitive win, but it's a win that you need in this type of atmosphere. And as you head towards the end of the season. So the Bulls got one more game before the All-Star break. We face the Cleveland Cavaliers on Valentine's Day. So be tuned in for that one. But if the Bulls can get that win against the Cleveland Cavaliers, they can create that little bit more separation that they have. We now are 2 games above the Atlanta Hawks, with 2 games below 500 as well. And we're 2.5 games behind the Miami Heat for the 8th spot and 3.5 games behind the Indiana Pacers for the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. So take that for what you will. Hopefully the Bulls can finish this out strong, before the All-Star break, get the extra rest that they're going to get over having those 8 days off for vacation. And let's hit the ground running after the All-Star break and hopefully kind of create that a little bit more separation and finish the season out strong. So that's what you hope for the Bulls. But let's go ahead and see how you guys are feeling about this. We got MC in the building, says competitive win. Absolutely, brother. JK says nice win. Go Bulls. Agree with you. C Red, baby. This is a must-win game. Wish they won against the but hey, it's all good. We created separation. I'm glad Caruso was out. Hopefully he can play against the Cavs. We'll need him. I mean, we'll see. It could be if that's something nagging, they may go ahead and let him get that extra game off to get that extra day before the All-Star break hits. But, we'll see. And, we'll find out about Kobe White, hopefully. About Patrick Williams over the All-Star break as well. So Mateo in the building says, Io Dos Trace. Absolutely, man. Io's killing it right now. Definitely killing it. Look at Trae Young's dad, man. So inspirational. Hey, Io Dosunmu owns Trae Young. It's just, I think there's been one game in this matchup where Trae Young kind of gave Io Dosunmu the business. I think that was like the first or second game of last season. But other than that, it's really been Io's killed him. And, shout out to Io for stepping in, playing that way that he played in this game, playing the defense that they did on Trae. Came into this game saying it's about forcing Trae Young to have an inefficient night. Trae Young only made 3 shots tonight. He was 3 of 14 from the field. Now, he did go 11 of 12 from free throw range. We got to foul him a lot less. He had 14 assists as well, but he had that inefficient scoring night. And when you do that to Trae Young, it really does, disrupt how they like to run their offense. So really good there. I would like to see force a little bit more turnovers out of him, but, it is what it is there. But really, when you look at the starters for the Atlanta Hawks, most of them shot inefficiently or around that level where you look at it. So I like the way that the Bulls played defense throughout this game. And you got to give the Bulls love on that one. Io is in contention for the third consecutive year. FOTY. What's FOTY? Footy? What? I'm sure my brain's just being slow on that one. Shout out to Javon Carter this game. Javon Carter had some nice moments this game. He had some bad moments as well. But Javon Carter, in a time where we really had to play him well, or play him minutes, he played pretty well in this game. competitive win against the Hawks and the barbershop lollipop Trae Young. Let's carry this over to the Cleveland game. Hopefully, Kobe's doing all right. Dude was sluggish tonight despite his 20 points. Yeah, and when you start seeing a player like Kobe and those shots keep coming up short, that points to fatigue. And I think Stacey King talked a little bit about that on the broadcast tonight too. And that is something that we're seeing, that Kobe White, I think, is just tired. And no slouch to him. He's leading the league in minutes over the year so far since the calendar switched. And so, you want to try to get him some rest where you can. If Javon Carter is going to be playing better, that's going to help some as well. So let's see if they can get him a little bit more rest in here. We got Ben 10 in the building, says Bulls got that win without Caruso and P. Will. This team has depth that nobody is mentioning across the league. Well, the reason why nobody's mentioning there, Ben 10, not to say that it's it's good for this, but we haven't seen the depth. We haven't had the depth. We've been missing a player each and every portion of the season. We're missing Zach LaVine. They were missing Zach and DeMar for a little stretch there. Then Vooch missed some time. Patrick Williams missed some time. So you won't really hear the Bulls' depth talked about until everybody is healthy and the team's playing well. Now, we know that's not going to happen this season. Zach isn't coming back. Lonzo's going to be out the rest of the season. But, Pete Will, Caruso, you get everybody healthy after the All-Star break, and then we're playing with that depth. You may hear people start talking about it a little bit more, but you got to have everybody out there if you're really going to talk about that depth. Keno says, man, I know I said Iowa was going to shine, but I didn't know that bright. Listen, this is one of those games that Iowa needs to use this to remind himself how he can be on both sides of the ball. And don't overlook how taxing that is on a player to give that type of effort on both sides of the ball, right? We like the players that are able to do that every single night are few and far between. And I'm not saying Iowa's reached that level yet, because he has to show it over more time. But the brand of defense that Iowa played and the offense, it was Jimmy Butler-esque is what Iowa Dosunmu and this type of performance gave today. And it's difficult for players to give that every single night, that type of effort on both sides. But listen, when Iowa does it, he makes it look flawless, man. He makes it so much easier for the Chicago Bulls in many ways as well. Man, shout out to Javon. The man said he wanted playing time and absolutely executed. Dalen being a dog on both ends of the floor, and Io king of the A, dog, let them young boys loose. Hopefully this is a sign. This is a wake-up call for Billy Donovan as well, right? Billy is the one who needs to have the confidence in the young players for them to play more often. It comes down to Billy Donovan trusting them, being willing to play them, and let them go through their mistakes as players and figure it out. And that's what it comes down to. If Billy Donovan is going to truly trust these young players to develop and wants to be able to rely on them when he has to, you have to be willing to give them minutes and do that consistently. And so hopefully they continue using this time to show that to Billy Donovan, and Billy Donovan stays alert and aware of it as we move forward. So let's hope that that's the case. This was JC's legendary game this season. LOL, he held Trae Young to below 20 points, and that's saying a lot. Well, you can't blame it all on JC. I'm sorry. That's just would be disingenuous to say that Javon Carter is who held Trae Young to under 20 points. It was a team effort because I was guarding him a lot. Now, Javon Carter did a good job in his minutes against them, and shout out to Javon Carter for that. Playing 25 minutes after a DNP. Listen, that may be the wake-up call that Javon Carter needed to realize, hey, get back to being that dog that we thought you were going to be when you came to the Chicago Bulls. Io slowly becoming a guard version of Giannis. Listen, that y'all be making these comparisons, man. It's too early for that comp, my brother. What a night for Io. He has been on fire. Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. Yo, Haize, where BKR at? He called us winning by 10. Beep beep. And right on schedule. Now, sir, I said Trae Young is a cat. Couldn't even score 20. Bulls 10 plus, Bulls by 10, and to drive home safe. Thanks for coming. Hey, listen, BKR called it, man. Shout out to my brother from across the pond, man. Ali Fault in the building says King of Bulls content on YouTube. Well, I appreciate that, brother. Hopefully I keep giving you this fire content, man. Can you remember when we said there's nothing to look forward to? The youngsters aren't good. Remember, I do. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that, coming into the season, one of the things that I kept talking about is the fact that, we hadn't yet seen the young players of the Bulls and Kobe, Io, Patrick Williams, and of course Dalen Terry, Julian Phillips. They hadn't getting much opportunity. That it was a big knock on the Bulls that we didn't have those young players that you just knew were going to be huge building blocks of your future. Kobe and Io are showing that. P. Will showed it in flashes immediately after Zach went down. That foot injury, I think, was kind of limiting him in the times that we saw him look a little bit more like passive P. Hopefully he can come back, man, and he can be that again, and he can be added into that as well. So Brazil Popular says Io should be our starting shooting guard. I mean, I understand what you're saying in that, Brazil Popular, but I think there's something to be said about Io coming off the bench, right? And the fact that when he is coming off the bench, he's able to dictate a little bit more. He's able to push the pace a little bit more. More things are able to go through him. But I tell you what, Io keeps playing like this. You may have to ask yourself if he does need to be starting next to Kobe White. And we do know that Io and Kobe do have a really good chemistry together. We know that for a fact. So we'll see. We'll see. Ant the Big Homie says, Chicago Bulls fans, guess what? We got some building blocks so we can breathe a little bit. Hey. We definitely got building blocks. Definitely got building blocks in this, man. Those trade Io haters have been real quiet. I mean, listen, and this is the thing, and this isn't to toot a horn or to call anybody out, but we got to stop as a fandom, right? I'm going to call us all. Because we're together in this, right? As Bulls fans, we need to stop being so willing to throw our players away when they're still young. And yeah, they're going through some up and downs, right? Players in the 2021-22 season saying Kobe White didn't fit this team. There wasn't a spot for him. He's going to absolutely be moved by the deadline for a big. Now look at where Kobe White is. Dosunmu, after an admitted sophomore slump, the Bulls, again, I don't think anybody really said the deal Io was on was bad, but thinking that Io wasn't going to stick around. Now Io showing big things on this team, right? And then Dalen Terry, in this game, I think showed a little bit of the promise that he has. A player that's not going to do he's not going to be maybe elite at any one thing but energy and maybe defense, but that's important on a team. That is a role that you really can't overlook of the importance of having that on a team. So I think when you pair all that together don't give up on Julian Phillips yet. Don't give up on Patrick Williams yet. Could take to year 5 with Patrick Williams. It could take to year 6. We'll see. He's probably going to be here either way. But don't give up on these young guys. They need some time. We just got a player development department this season with a shooting coach. Let's see how these players look after a year or two. But let's stop being willing to write the story on players too early on, right? Maxine, or Markson. Let me know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Iowa's great. He's breaking out lately. This is potential for a great backcourt. Bulls should build around Io and Kobe. Hopefully P. Will is the next player to make a leap. Listen, I'll go for P. Will. I'll go for Julian Phillips. I'll go with Dalen Terry, right? If any of those guys can make a leap like Kobe White has made this season, it completely changes your outlook on what the Bulls' future can be if you have your young pieces. It's something to be said about your young pieces being the ones that are standing up. Yeah, players like DeMar is great, right? What DeMar's able to bring, especially when he's on, is amazing. Same for Vooch. But when you have your young players being a huge part of why you're winning games, it just feels a little bit different. And so let's hope that this continues forward. Now, I'm gonna throw this question to you guys, right? It's not just about me. Let's throw this to you guys. Do you think that there is a potential that Kobe White and Dosunmu could be the starting backup of the Chicago Bulls' future? Do you think that? You got the nice offense and defense, two-way ability from both those guys. Kobe's, of course, better offensively. Io's a more lockdown defender, but those guys still give effort on both sides of the ball. Do you think that, you know what? Let me make it a poll. I forgot I can do that. I've been trying to do this a little bit more. Hold on. All right, bet. Let's go ahead and just put this out in the poll. Let's see how you guys are feeling about that. Just put that poll out there. Go ahead and vote on that. I'll come back to that in a second. Ben 10 in the building again says, I'm just afraid because the Bulls always take a giant leap forward, but then 3 steps back and we never progress. Could that happen soon, or is this team good enough for it? Doesn't? Your take on that? Great question, Ben 10. This is a really, really good question. Here's what I'll say. There's always potential for that, especially for a team that hasn't shown an ability to always step up every single night, right? We're still building an identity. If the Bulls had an identity, I would feel safer in saying that, hey, no, they're not going to take a step back. But you're right. It's been evident. Every time we get close to 500, we take a step back. We go on a losing streak, something like that. Here's what I'll say is that the way that this team has been playing, especially when they're hanging their hat on their defense, you look at this game, look at the Minnesota Timberwolves game, right? If this team ever realizes what they can be defensively and hang their hat on that defense first, the offense is going to come, especially if you play really solid defense. I think that could really change some things for the Bulls. So I'm not betting on a decline, but there is that chance for decline. And I don't think the Bulls have shown enough to where me or anybody else can safely say that slide is just impossible to happen to this Bulls team. I think people need to realize that there is a chance that it could happen. Let's just hope that it doesn't. P. Will got to step up his game when he comes back. He's watching Kobe and Io getting better and better while gaining hella confidence. Confidence is a big part of that, especially for P. Will, right? If I said it before, P. Will unlocks what's between his ears. People better watch out. And I'm not saying that he's going to be like a superstar or anything, but with P. Will's physicality, it was physical makeup, and the skill set that he has, if Patrick Williams just gets confident and realizes that there are not too many people that can stop him off the dribble, if he uses that strength and is smart, it can really open up for him. We'll see. We'll see. OTR says Io with the big 29 points on stupid, crazy efficiency. Like I said, Io owns Atlanta. I mean, hey, I feel you where you're coming from on that one, brother. DeMar today focused on finishing more than trying to draw fouls. That's what I like more because refs this season call fouls blind shittedly. Is that what you bullshittedly? I agree with you. I think that's something, again, not to try to throw anybody under the bus, but I do think that's something that typically holds, like, for example, Zach LaVine back. I think Zach LaVine plays to try to get the calls. And then especially when he is upset, he like looks at the refs. He's like, he doesn't just focus on finishing hard. He focuses on trying to get the calls. And I think that that's something that's held Zach LaVine back from getting to the free throw line more. So that's we'll talk about Zach in the offseason. But I agree. I definitely agree with you on that. When DeMar just focuses on doing what he can do and playing like he can, listen, it makes so much things easier for him and easier for the team overall. That's why when people say like DeMar has no role on this team, I have to fight back against that. He definitely does. It's just how that role is executed is as important as the role that he has. And in this game, he really allowed that game to come to him. He deferred at times to even Io Dosunmu, and it paid off majorly for the Chicago Bulls. So definitely love that. Ring sign perspective says we wanted to trade both Kobe and Io. Let that sink in. I didn't. Now go back to me. I never said that. So, it sounds like you lost your voice a bit, bro. Yeah, I think it's starting to a little bit for me. It's been a lot of content being dropped, so that doesn't surprise me. I'll rest it up. I'll be fine by the morning. It happens sometimes. Io had to spank his badass son. By the way, that hoodie's fire. This is probably, I won't say it's my favorite. It's probably top 5 hoodies though that I have for the Chicago Bulls. That new red stitch one that I have that I wore a couple of episodes ago, I think that may be my favorite one now. But Bulls drip it is. Come on, I am Bulls drip. All right, so nice Bulls drip, brother. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that, brother. Trae Young so effing overrated. The thing that I don't like about Trae Young is the whining. Like, to me, Trae Young has a really good skill set. His ability to stretch the floor. He's a solid enough passer. I love how Trae Young, unlike sometimes where the Bulls can't identify how to get their bigs the ball, Trae Young can always get his big the ball if they're in the right spot. So I got to acknowledge that. But to me, Trae Young he's not Steph Curry. And that's what people try to comp him to. He's not that remotely, but that doesn't mean that he can't still be a really good player. So I think it's time to strongly consider Kobe Io backcourt going forward after Zach is not a Bull anymore. I think it depends on what you get back, right? And if the Bulls do go center in this draft, which we kind of talked about in the pregame show, you could make that conversation for that, right? We'll see what happens. Fit tough, Haize. Thank you for that. Listen, I try a little bit from time to time. Drink some water, Haize. Your voice is going. It's not the water. That's all I drink during the day is water. It's just the fact that I've been recording. So keep in mind, I do Chicago Bulls Central, Chicago Bears Central, Chicago Sky Central. I pop in and out on other shows. It's just I got to do Locked on Bulls. All right, so yeah, the voice is going a little bit, but hey, it is what it is, man. All right. Io's been playing like he should be a full-time starter for the last month. He has. I mean, there's no mistake about it. Dosunmu and the impact that he's having is definitely, there were times where last season where Io looked better after Pat Bev came coming off the bench. To start this season, it looked like Io was better coming off the bench. But once that confidence starts building, you can see a player start jumping, using that as a launching pad. Dosunmu right now is playing like he definitely deserves to be a starter in this league, and we'll see if he keeps up that level. Damn, we really could have gotten to 500 if he took care of business against the Magic last game. It is what it is. I think Javon Carter was tired of you clowning him. Probably was. And listen, if that's what it takes, I'll keep clowning the ball-headed bitch. Like, didn't mean that. The ball-headed hoe. That's what I call it, ball-headed hoe. Io gave Trae Young that Dwight. Whoa. Shay, bro, why the line was here. The line was here. You decided to jump over the line. You could have stayed right here. You had all this area to deal with. All that area you had. You decided to go over here. Why? I don't know. Like, come on, man. What are we doing here, bro? What are we doing here? I am bringing that hardcore Chicago ball to the court, to the NBA court. Put them on notice. Love my Bulls. See red. Really love it. Really love it. God, good ass win. I can't get over young baby hair on his damn head. That's hey, listen, Trae Young. I don't know if he goes to the barbershop. I don't know if Trae Young goes to the barbershop. I don't know if he does, but he should. He definitely should. You'll have to remember something. Javon Carter was the Trae Young stopper before Io. I don't care about that. We're talking about now. This is what have you done for me lately business. I told y'all in the pregame what Io would do to this team. LOL. That's funny. If the front office was smart, they should seriously consider keeping our young guys and let everyone go. I want to see Kobe Puo, Dalen, Io grow and develop on this team. But keep in mind, like I get where you're coming at with that, but it's just not going to happen. This front office isn't going to trade away all the veteran pieces because they are still trying to win now. This is what it is. I'm glad BD elevated some of Kobe's minutes. He really needed that. You could definitely tell he was tired, and finally JC held his weight this game. It's funny because I talked about that a little bit on today's daily episode. One of the segments was talking about how DeMar and Kobe are top 5 in the NBA minutes played. They're both in the top 5. And I talked about how those minutes for Kobe could come down if we had better production off the bench and if we didn't have as many injuries, of course. But even with the injuries, if Javon Carter was playing better more consistently, those minutes would naturally come down for Kobe White. If Javon Carter can play like this more often, right? And it's not just about the scoring, right? The defense, those type of things, then that can alleviate some of those minutes from Kobe White. Now, it's one game, so I'm not willing to say yet that it's going to happen consistently. But if it does, we can start getting some of those minutes for Kobe down a little bit, right? Can I sell you on Kobe, Io, and Terry for the future? Terry's still very raw, but the level of effort can't be taught. I'm trying to sell myself too. I mean, listen, the thing when it comes to Dalen Terry, we always knew that he was raw, right? And we saw, especially if you watch Dalen Terry in the G League, you always saw the glimpses of what Dalen Terry could be as that Swiss Army knife energy defender, right? And I think that there's something to be said about like letting that confidence build. Much like we talked about Dosunmu, if that confidence keeps building for Dalen Terry, as well as he keeps working with that player development staff, the sky really becomes the limit at that point. And we'll see what it can become. I try to defend Trae Young, thinking he can be a franchise player, but at this point, seeing the way he plays, it's sometimes like he's going to be a number 2. It seems like all he tries to do is draw fouls. I mean, I can't disagree with you on that. Now, I don't watch every Atlanta Hawks game. I've probably watched maybe 8 to 10 Atlanta Hawks games this season outside of when we've played them. But I mean, he does foul hunt. Now, to his credit, he gets to the free throw line a lot, so it works for him to a degree. But you got to round out. It has to be more skill than that. Honestly, if these young players keep developing the skills we see, Io, Dalen, P. Will Phillips, we could end up saying they actually did draft well. Probably in 2 to 3 years, we're saying that. great point, Vaughn, and that is something that I've said before. Every time that somebody says, well, AK and Eversley can't draft, I always go back to say, well, we really don't know that quite yet. On top of like players not playing a lot of minutes in Julian Phillips and Dalen Terry because of Billy Donovan, sometimes when you draft, just like Kobe, took to 5 years. I know we're trained to kind of think by year 3, you kind of know what you have in a player, but that isn't always true. And so as players play, as the one and done becomes more and more prevalent in collegiate game, and then of course, like now with colleges knowing players are going to be one and done, they don't have the same development staff and time that they once had. So this player development department for the Bulls and for NBA teams as a whole to have that is going to be very important going forward into the future. Very important. Io was the guard version of Giannis is a very casual observation. They don't play like each other at all, apart from the fact that they are both good finishers at the rim. And Io Dosunmu has become so much more of a better finisher around the rim. Right? You remember last year where that's one of the things that is really different about Io's game this year is that he's consistently finishing well around the rim. He just is. Last year he was missing a lot of bunnies at the rim. Now he's finishing way more consistently. Giannis is an insane comparison. This is why people start hating on players because y'all take it too far. That was a wild comp. Wild comp. We will need all cylinders clicking to beat Cleveland. They've been playing well lately, and we need to make another statement by winning. Yeah, the Cleveland Cavaliers are on a hell of a run, right? You cannot come in lacking against that Cleveland Cavaliers team. Right now, number 2 in the Eastern Conference. If I'm not mistaken, I think I would have to do the counting, but I think that they've won something like 16 out of their last 18 games or something like that. It's a really crazy number. The Cleveland Cavaliers are balling right now. They're balling. And you got to give credit where credit's due when it comes down to it. They are playing extremely well right now, and that is a really nice test for the Chicago Bulls heading right before the All-Star break, right? You get to play a team that's the number 2 team in the Eastern Conference that's been winning, kicking ass. Hey, I mean, listen, here's the thing that I've learned to realize with the Chicago Bulls team. They can play with anyone. They just have that ability to match wits with any team in the NBA. The biggest question is will they? Will they? Now, they lost tonight to the Philadelphia 76ers, so they're going to be looking for a rebound as well heading into the All-Star break. But this is a team that's only lost 2 games out of their last 18 games. 2 games out of the last 18 games. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. OTR says Kobe winning most improved this year. Next year, Io. The year after that, Pat. The year after DT, I'm calling it. Hey, listen, if the Bulls get 3 straight years of most improved player of the year, I tell you what, that'll be an insane run. Insane run is what you can say to that. You are right. You are so right because all the young players have had a lot of haters at times. But besides Marco, all the young guys are showing real potential and progress this year. Agree with you, right? When Marco Simonovic is gone, but like all the young guys, even when you look at Adama Sanogo down in the G League, Adama Sanogo is killing it in the G League. Now, I'm not saying that means shit for the NBA level. He'll have to show and prove it at the NBA level, but because of where the Bulls are this offseason, where they just may not be able to pay Andre Drummond to return, having a young big that you're developing in your G League system and be able to call, that's what really good, that's what Miami Heat would do, right? That's what really good teams do. When you start seeing more teams use their G League truly as a developmental system, and then you're able to replace some of your vet minimum players. You're able to replace some of those players that go elsewhere to get paid more with players that you've organically built in your G League system. That's how you can build a sustainable team, because you're not paying. It's not sustainable to have a big splash in free agency every single year. Developing is the thing that makes the difference between a team that could win for a little while and teams that can have sustained success over years. And so hopefully the Bulls can become one of those teams. Hopefully they can become one of those teams. Big Diesel says, Haize, I agree and disagree with you. Bulls fans should not give up on some young players, but P. Will is different. He's looking for a nice pay. No, see, and that's the thing. You got to stop with the narratives. P. Will isn't that thing of P. Will looking for $20 million was literally debunked 1 week later. So update your narrative. P. Will isn't looking for a payday. He is looking for a contract because guess what? He's a restricted free agent. So no, that does not mean give up on that young player. If you're a smart front office, you build that in. Now, I'm not saying that P. Will is going to get the max at all 5 years, but best believe P. Will is going to come back. And P. Will isn't looking for this huge payday. I've seen you say that before, and I keep debunking it. And it's like you don't update your narrative. That whole talk of P. Will wanting $200 million or whatever it was, $20 million, was literally debunked the next week by KC Johnson. Let's stop it. He's going to get paid. He's going to get a reasonable amount. He's probably going to get around Kobe White, maybe a little bit above money, but that's it. That's it. And that's fair for a young player that still has promise. That's a free agent. That's fair. He's going to get a fair deal. He's going to need to develop here. For all y'all saying that Patrick Williams needs to come in and be aggressive as soon as he gets off the injury, remember, injury like that takes time. I think also people are kind of not understanding how serious of an injury that is for P. Will. That is almost the foot comparison to Lonzo Ball's initial injury. Not the bone bruise and the cartilage and shit that developed from it, but that initial injury. It could take a while. It could take sometimes up to a year for people to like, depending on how the severity of it. So it's not going to be as simple as just bouncing back and getting to. Now, P. Will has shown that he's Wolverine. He heals at a super fast rate, but it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. Chino says, I'm really interested on what Sanogo can do in the league. He's dominating the G League. Maybe one of these games, Billy can run the Twin Towers lineup and give Sanogo some minutes. I don't trust Billy Donovan to do it. It'd be nice. Don't get me wrong. I would love to see Adama Sanogo get a chance to show what he can bring at the NBA level. But I just think Billy Donovan isn't going to play a rookie big. I think they're going to let Adama Sanogo finish out the season in the G League and then maybe look at some things depending on what happens in free agency. So if Javon consistently gets minutes, he would be better than he's been. That being said, he's been the sixth best guard on the team. I can't say that. Listen, minutes are earned, especially when you have a team that's guard heavy. So just saying, oh, he'll play better if he got more minutes. No, because the other players were playing good. Dosunmu and Javon Carter for the first 2.5 months of the season were basically getting the same exact minutes. And Dosunmu was able to thrive in those minutes. You got to find a way. If you want more minutes, you have to find a way to be productive in the minutes that you are getting. You can't just say, oh, if you get more minutes, you're going to be better. So, yeah, it is what it is there. You got to show and prove. You got to show and prove. You cannot go deep in playoffs with Trae Young. Have they gotten past the first round? You can, and see, when people say stuff like that, you can't go deep in the playoffs with Trae Young. You can, but it's how you build out the team is important, right? We've seen much worse players go. Hell, J.R. Smith won the NBA. He was on the team that won the NBA Finals. So you can't just say that, and he's a worse player than Trae Young. So you can't just say that. Now, if you're saying as a number one, cool, but that's how you have to build out your team, and that's why I think they were hoping DeJounte was going to be a little bit better for him than what he's been. So. Super Duper Danko says, please, for the love of God, draft a center. We could have used Walker Kessler. Oh, listen, you got to have a center that's on the board where you draft at. Now, in the pregame show, I did talk about a center from Duke that I would like the Bulls to draft, but we'll talk about it. You can't be dissing your bald-headed brethren when you bald yourself. Again, why do you keep with this? I've debunked this narrative 15 times. Your boy isn't bald. Now, I do need a line, and it's rough. I've never been bald. So OTR, again, much like Big Diesel, update your narrative. Just because I wear hats doesn't mean I'm bald. I actually only wear hats because I just like hats, but I'm not bald. Come on now, update your narrative there, brother. Just never mind. That joke that I was going to say was going to make you sound like a pedo. For you, I'm going to save you from that. Keep your jokes to yourself, bro. You got to stop. Got to stop with that. Letting every vet go won't help the Trae Young, the young core develop. Yes, they would get more shots, but they would lose more games and play worse, which would hurt their development. Well, there's two minds of that, right? Sometimes you learn through failure. So you can't just say, because not every player that's developed has done so through having veterans or even winning games, right? You get to that point. So I do think you want to have a mix. That's why you see the Bulls really value Alex Caruso like they do, right? Because they're going to keep some veterans on this team for sure. Keep some veterans on this team. What do you think about Henry Drell? Henry Drell is a really good shooter in the G League. I worry about Henry Drell ability to deal with NBA physicality. Now, to be said, I do like that the Bulls did lock him in on a two-way contract, because to me, those Max Strus comparisons, I think those are legit. I mean, as far as when Max Strus was in the G League, they're legit. You got to see if he's going to be able to develop, if he can add weight to that body. There's reason to believe that keeping Henry Drell on your squad is going to be good for you in the long term. So, I've been saying that I'll give P. Will Kobe White money. Absolutely. He's probably just a tad bit more than Kobe. Yeah, I think that that's fair. I think that he'll get a little bit more money than Kobe White. And by a little, maybe on average, 1.5 to 2 million more per year. But even then, I think that's going to be really close with those two contracts for sure. I think the young core is experienced enough that they could definitely learn to win if they were to go younger on the roster. Though we all know AK won't do that. Absolutely, he's not gonna allow that. AK is gonna have this team keep playing at the level that they're playing, and it just kind of is what it is there. Casey Johnson is funny as hell. He be trying to tell guys celebrating we're doing an interview here. Hey, listen, Casey Johnson is literally like the old uncle that goes out with, like, the 45-year-old uncle that goes out and kicks it with his 25-year-old little cousins every once in a while. Like, he just gives those, like, Casey Johnson is a good dude. I've talked to Casey Johnson. I haven't had him on the show yet. He's a good dude. He's funny. But when he's around these young guys, you can just see the look on his face where he's just like, hey, these young black dudes are funny. These young black dudes are hilarious. Bro, get off the Zach. Zach Edey is trash. Corn. Like, literally, bro, on top of you trying to talk into the wind to leave a voicemail, sounding like you about to break out crying and singing Usher songs every time you leave a voicemail, Zach Edey is absolutely trash. He's trash. He's not going to play good at the NBA level. Kofi Coburn was a better collegiate player than Zach Edey, and he was more mobile. Zach Edey moves like the 1960s fucking Mummy movie. Zach Edey is not going to be an NBA player, bro. He's not going to be an NBA player. I think the young core is experienced enough that they could definitely. Oh, I already read that one. I've actually been on the Atlanta Hawks podcast, and they've even acknowledged that Io has had Trae Young's number even since he's been in the. Why, okay, we know this. Why are you saying the same thing? We know this, man. You say the same goddamn shit every single time. How much do you think P. Will would have to sign an offer with another team for us to let him walk? Oh, there's no chance of that. I don't think there's a single chance that this front office, with how much they are invested in the development of Patrick Williams, that they let him walk for nothing. I doubt if Patrick Williams even gets to the point of taking another offer from a team. I seriously doubt that. We need a young big man, but I don't know about Zach Edey. He's good in college, but I can't see him playing at the NBA level. Exactly. Like, Zach Edey is a good college player, a really good college player, and that's fine. But that's it for Zach Edey. That's where his story ends. And and again, I don't say that to hate on anybody, right? I remember when I was saying the same thing about Kofi Coburn, and this dude, one of y'all, because I think he still watches the channel, he was DMing me on goddamn Instagram talking about some. I don't understand. I don't understand the Kofi Coburn hate. Kofi Coburn's clearly going to be a 20-8 guy at the NBA level. He's absolutely gonna be able to dominate the NBA. And I was like, all right, bro, come back when he plays five NBA games. I haven't heard from the dude since. Haven't heard from the motherfucker since. So, yeah, got to get off that. Recently, every Bulls game always a close game. Could that be the reason why Kobe's so tired? No, well, it's the minutes. Now, the minutes that he's playing is correlated to how close these games are, because we don't close out teams in a way to where we can get them a little bit more extra rest, and I think that plays a huge part in it. So, yeah, man, yeah. Zach Edey definitely NBA star, bro. Benji, Benji, every time you talk, everybody's basketball IQ gets stupider. You are worse than Zach LaVine dribbling the ball off his foot in fourth quarters. I'm sorry, Benji. I love you. Thank you for supporting the podcast. But every time you talk basketball, everybody who's around you and in the vicinity of your voice loses a monochrome of NBA intelligence. Because I'm sorry, every time I've never seen anybody, even a broke clock is right 2 times a day. You're worse than a broke clock. You haven't said a good basketball take in the year and a half you've been in my chat. And it's like you haven't let, even through osmosis, you should have been able to learn something about basketball in being in a Chicago Bulls Central chat. And you literally haven't learned shit. You haven't. Benji, come on, man. Go binge some goddamn basketball IQ. Go do that, man. Come on, we need you to do that. Be better than that, man. Thank you, Mario, for the super chat. Says, when the young players playing like this, does that change who we should go after in the buyout market? Thanks for the great content, as always, sir. I mean, what you need is what you need, right? And you can't be deterred from your players stepping up to still try to go out and get what you need to add to this team. Now, here's what I'll say. I would say that they still need three-point shooting. And while Io, the last 2 games, has hit 5 3-pointers each, you still need a more consistent three-point threat. So if you can get a guy who just is efficient at three-pointers, that alleviates some of that chance that happens. Because, listen, it just helps the game go. So I think you still need what you need, but you're going to pay them about the same. We'll see. We'll see. If this was the 80s, maybe I could see Edie being a top big man in the NBA. But with the big man position changing to the point where centers are taking more threes, his style of game is outdated. I don't even think it's the threes, right? Because players like Bam Adebayo don't shoot threes, but they're a really effective center in this league. When it comes to Zach Edey, it's the lateral movement. This is a switch-heavy NBA. And while a big man like Drum doesn't shoot like out on the perimeter, he doesn't shoot in the mid-range, his versatility defensively is what makes him be able, and his rebounding, of course, to stay on the court. A player like Zach Edey is going to get absolutely cooked if he gets switched on the guard. Absolutely cooked. I saw a mock draft that had us drafting Rob Dillingham. He's good offensively, but will have problems defensively. Definitely would be an upgrade over Javon Carter. Definitely. Kyle Haize, look out for your voice, man. We don't want to miss any. Oh, bro, you must be new here. I don't miss videos. You ain't got to worry about that. Believe me, you won't. Listen. I'm almost at 1,000 straight days. I had, for those that don't know, there was a time period in what month was that? I don't even remember the month. Maybe it was like November, whatever of 2021, where I lost 31 pounds in 10 days because I was sick. I couldn't hold food down. I didn't miss a single video then. I'm not going to miss a single video now. It would literally take God himself to strike me to death for me to miss a video. So, for real, with another three-point threat, we get more spacing, which also helps Kobe get more open threes. Marcus Morris went to Minnesota too. Was my first pick, Gallinari or Harrison. I think it's probably going to be one of those 2 guys. And those 2 guys that I've always been focused on for sure. So, hey, I was saying people was going to get 22 to 24. That's too much. 18 million should be his max. With the health concerns and things, I don't even know, honestly, if people is going to get 18 million. I think it's going to be around Kobe White money. I think that's what it's going to be around for Kobe White. Kobe White basically getting about 12 million. I'd say maybe he gets about 14 to 15, but he's not getting, I don't think he's getting 18 million a year. I don't think he is. But all right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central. I got to get ready to go over and do Locked On. So if you guys want to go over and tune in to Locked On Bulls, we'll be there, man. But yeah, this was another dub by the Chicago Bulls. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number 1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all.